Well, thank you. Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Kevin Houston. I have the pleasure to be the moderator of this session. I, along with Som Narayan, who you've heard twice today, the co-founder of a company called Carbon Masters. I, first of all, want to commend you all for your fortitude. I mean, there's nothing like on a really hot day to sit in a darkened room without windows, listening to people to present at you all day. So you've done remarkably well that we've got so many of you still here for this final session. Now, in this session, we're going to be talking about fermented organic manure, which is in some ways the biggest opportunity but the biggest challenge facing the CBG industry. We've an eminent panel of speakers today on what I prove will be a very interesting topic. So without any further ado, I want to introduce our chairperson for this session, Dr. Navindu Gupta, who's the principal scientist from CESCRA and the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, and a principal investigator for the Gobardhan Mission and Slurry Project Division of the Environmental Sciences Government of India, who will make some opening remarks. Just press that one there.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. I was just few minutes ago repeating to a gentleman from World Bank that the good technology need no advertisement. Similarly, good product need no advertisement except initial push. If we have good products, universally acceptability, because the FOM or LFOM, the final stakeholder is farmers. Now, urea from which brand, which company, which factory, farmers doesn't bother. So I see the future of FOM if we take it only organic manure point of view. If we are going for green energy, renewables, or renewable sources of energy, ultimately we have to manage our biomass. Not only from environmental point of view, but nutrient recycling also. We extract a lot of nutrients during our cropping period, so it has to go back to the field in one form or the other. Maybe the quantity is less. So CBG is the alternate. And to produce CBG, I'll just take you to my small presentation.
Yeah, he's already.
Yeah. I'm from ICAR. And this is our institute. I think the inception of this institute is in 1905 at Pusa, Bihar. When there was a flood, it has been shifted to IARI, New Delhi, Pusa campus, you might have heard of. And this is one of the most pioneer institute in agriculture sciences, whether it is cereal crop, horticulture, oilseed, pulses, and so on. So I'm working in the area of biogas. As everyone knows, that the major component of the growth paradigm, this morning the Honorable Minister has also said the shifting for the green energy. And energy security remains vulnerable until substituted by alternate fuels. This is everyone knows. And our commitments is that 50% of the energy demand will be met by renewables by 2030. This is an interesting, slide in the sense, what is the characteristic of biomass? We have tried to give a broad, composition. that it contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, cellulose, hemicellulose, and these two components are good for the anaerobes for digestion. So the biogas plant or any CBG plant, scale is different. Scale may be from 2 cubic meter to 500 cubic meter or maybe more than that. The story lies the same. There are 4 stages of anaerobic fermentation: the hydrolytic, acidolytic, acetolytic, and methanogenesis. Now, the cellulose and hemicellulose component present in the biomass is enough feed for the anaerobes for their propagation or multiplication. And this is the typical stoichiometric formula of biomass, which was given by Rodage, that the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen content in the ratio of their mole ratio of 1:1.4 to 0.6 is very important, because I'll come to the need. Now, if we do not manage our biomass for CBG plant, this would be the scenario, and this is existing. During the November, December, October to January, Delhi feels a lot of suffocation. And this is all due to the particulate matter which is flying from Punjab or Haryana or western part of UP and all over, wherever the burning of biomass takes place. This is the field. Now, we cannot hold farmers responsible for this, because farmers need clean field for the next crop. His livelihood depends on the farming. So when he needs the clean field, what he will do with the residue of the previous crop? And this happens in the kharif. So a lot of burning takes place right in the field. This is the scenario of the landfill sites, MSW. So it's not only the biomass, this is municipal solid waste as well. And these are the dump sites. We don't have any landfill, the civil structured landfill, only the dump sites. And lot of organic resource, I would say it's a resource, goes waste. And it pollutes the groundwater. It emits methane. I myself have seen thousands of workers, small boys, working there, picking their material of their interest, and then they cook food at the site itself by using barrel, put the barrel inside the dump, and they get gas, methane gas. They may not realize that it's methane gas. So in a way, they are living on a methane hoax. This is the scenario. And this is the scenario for almost all cities of the country. Now, this is one picture of the remote sensing, which says the fruit and forest waste residues during this onset of winter season also gets abundant due to maximum demand and production. Now, during the harvesting season, the constraint of low temperature provides hindrance to the composting process, making the agri residues accumulated. So that's the scenario. Now, the current science, an important article of saying that emission of trace gases like methane, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, NOx, SOx, hydrocarbon, particulates, these are retaining in the atmosphere, and the retention time is very high and responsible for greenhouse effect, responsible for global warming. So there is just a calculation that 1 ton of straw burning releases 3 kg of particulate matter, 60 kg of carbon monoxide, 1460 kg of carbon dioxide, and 199 kg of ash. So 1 ton, 1000 kg is giving you 199 kg, so almost 20%, and 2 kg of this. So that's the very alarming situation unless we manage our biomass, and a good job which has been initiated from last 2-3 years on the CBG sector. I really admire for this. What is the present, we have a 535 million livestock population. So on an average, 8 to 10 kg of cattle dung we get. So we have a surplus cattle dung, too much to manage this cattle dung. About 3 million tons of waste annually from livestock, which has a potential of 61,000 million metric cube of biogas annually. So if we tap all of this, then we will not argue for any energy or the electricity problem or so on. Now, bioslurry, what we call today FOM, LFOM or bioslurry, is low in agriculturally nutrient content, important content. 1 cubic meter of bioslurry contains only 0.16 to 1.05 kg of nitrogen, which is equivalent to 0.35 to 2.5 kg urea. Way back in 1972, when the biogas technology came in by MNRE, the villages were given subsidy on the biogas plant, and villagers were managing their cattle dung, and this is popularly known as gobar gas plant. And they were getting fuel out of it for their kitchen use and lighting. But when the LPG came, these plants were abandoned. Why? Because it's a human instinct, something which we get, easy gas, easy fuel. Why do I feed my tank, anaerobic tank and so on? Similarly, when refrigerator came, it replaces matka and all that. So it's a common human instinct. But when we are talking of CBG and it is a organized sector, then we will not be targeting the individual. We will target the state government should come in the play, and the farmers community as a whole when we supply the FOM and so on. So I'm for it that FOM is a good product. If we look from nutrient point of view, of course we say that it's low. But if we do enrichment by various ways, and there won't be a pile up. We have many options to do that. Vermicomposting is one, microalgal enrichment, the fungal enrichment, dry leaves, which can reduce its moisture content, because there is a issue of moisture. And when the moist something is stored, organic material is stored in a bag, there will be a fungus, and the farmers will not accept it. So reducing the moisture content, the locally available biomass can also be good for it. The particle size and many other quality parameters. And we have even go from total nitrogen to ammonical nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen. When we talk of ammonical nitrogen and nitrate nitrogen, because plant takes up the nitrogen in the form of either ammonium or nitrate, whichever is the plant. That's the genetics of the plant. And FOM contains both of them, as against the urea. Urea needs Agitobacter and then nitrosomonas. So in order to, mineralize the nitrogen of urea to nitrate or ammonium. So that's the importance of this. Now we have, of course, a lot of challenges on continuity, functionality, and efficiency. I have visited 5 plants, being a principal investigator from the Government of India side on the bioslurry management. All of these 5 plants are running under capacity. the capacity of the plant is high, but there is a short of, material, one reason. Other is offtake of the FOM, which is piled up in their factory area. So the space crunch is there in all factories. So therefore, they run only half of it or maybe the 40% of it. So that's the, real scenario of the CBG plant at this moment. We have to work on it. And the CBG sellability or the policy and other things are very, very good. Everybody wants CBG. But with CBG, we have to accept the FOM also, because you can't get CBG alone without getting the FOM. And that 2, 3, 4 times more than what the CBG is. So we have to see the solution of FOM and LFOM very seriously. Now, these are some technical issues, and my other panelists are waiting to speak, so I will not take much. So just for your interest, what we have done in ICR. On the left-hand side, if you see, this was the IRI model before even KVIC. And if you see, there are big trolleys and other things. This is only 10 cubic meter biogas plant, because we were only interested for the farmers, the group of farmers, or maybe the 3 farmers for a village. Now, a lot of improvement has been done. So removing the, farmers' drudgeries to maintain or running the biogas plant. So many of these improvisation has been done on this over a long period of time. So that's these. And this is the slurry, which for our experiment, how can we enrich it, by what material we can enrich it, and then how to use this in the agriculture field. Unless we give to a particular cropping pattern, and the farmers is convinced that you get yield, a good yield, or at least a sustainable yield, what you get from the chemical fertilizer, and what we are propagating it from safe point of view, that don't go for 100% FOM application and substitute the urea, but go for at least 10%. Slowly, we will phase out the chemical fertilizers. So that's our main purpose. So some of these are this. Now, this is the important slide that what do we look for? We look for advanced laboratory for quality assessment of FOM and LFOM, because we have different, feedstocks. So naturally, the quality of the FOM will also be varying. And wherever we are planning to bring a big CBG plant, it should be a government-supported laboratory where the testing will be done, certification will be done, and then the farmers will allow, because ultimately it will go to our soil, and we have to preserve our soil as well. So this is one. Other is the training center. In the same center of excellence, we can have both mandate. One is the quality assessment, and the second is the training center. From technological support, what we want is the development of standard analytical protocol, and it should be uniformly applied. That what is the method for total nitrogen, what is the method for ammonical nitrogen, and so on. Feedstock collection, transportation, storage, that's very important. And any success of the CBG plant depends upon how feedstock comes to its factory, at what cost, and then what is the running cost of that plant, and then the sellability of both the products, the CBG and the FOM. Low-cost purification and compression system. This is very important, because at this moment, the purification system, because biogas contains 55 to 60% of methane, we have to take it to 95 at least. Therefore, the purification is very important. And to my surprise, the carbon dioxide is also a very important industrial gas. So if we take biogas, purified for methane content, reaching the methane content, we should also take the carbon dioxide. When we do for both the gases, because separation is done, and collection of the both can be done, then both will give you a price, and the industrial cost will be met partially. Then, of course, this is our area of research, protocol of application of FOM, LFOM in agriculture. And we have been seriously working on this in different cropping systems at different geological areas of the country. Now, these are the plants which I have visited, and thank you very much. I have written a book on biogas technology in 2015. So the problem of all CBG is written in this book. Thank you very much. Now I welcome Kevin Saab to take over my place. Thank you very much.
Right, and in this next session, we're gonna look at feedstock in the context of different feedstocks through a CBG process will produce a different digestate. And so we're going to hear about the challenges of managing fermented organic manure and liquid organic manure from the perspective of those producers who are using different feedstocks. So we're going to hear from Ashish again, that's going to tell us about the challenges that they're facing with fermented organic manure from the use of rice straw. Then we're going to have Sanjeev Nagpal from Sampurna Agri-Ventures to talk about other agricultural wastes. Dr. Tushar Patil from Praj Industries will then take us through the challenges associated with press mud. I'm going to talk about the challenges associated with municipal solid waste. Then we're going to hear a perspective from chemical fertilizer producers as to the challenges of organic manure from their perspective. And we've got Dr. Ardasha as General Manager for Advent's Group. And then we'll finish up with a perspective from the Energy Resources Institute by Madam Sanjukta Subudhi. So at this point, I'll pass over to Ashish to take us through the first. So I will ask the speakers to just keep their remarks to a maximum of 10 minutes because otherwise we're going to run out of time. Thank you very much.
I thought best would be to see what it is rather than just talk about it. So this is how the FOM is coming out, post-production process, post the solid liquid separator. We keep talking about moisture, but this is how it looks. You know, it might sound that the moisture is 70-80%, which gives an impression that it could be a paste form, but this is how it is. You know, it's very fluffy, it's very light, it's not forming, there's no water dripping from it. So this is how the FOM actually looks like. So I think you heard Kevin saying challenges a lot of times. So we'll talk about what does he really mean. So what you see over here, I mean, these are the three topics what we are currently dealing with, and I'm talking about particularly FOM coming from agri-residue based units. The three parameters which need to be addressed, one is the moisture, the second is the C/N ratio, and third is to some extent the pH. Moisture, I think there was a mention in previous session that we already have a FCO in place. Yes, there is a FCO in place, but that FCO was introduced when the industry was not existing, which basically means the norms which are there in the FCO do not really fit into what the CBG production process results into. So what you see over here are the results from different plants. It's not just Verbio plant, it's different plants. And you see that the moisture ranges anything between 40 to 70% over here. Whereas the FCO norm talks about 30 to 40%. So this is in an as-is state. This is how the FOM characteristic is. The second is the C/N ratio. Of course, as was pointed out earlier, FOM is actually a source of carbon and not a source of NPK. And that is the reason why the narrative has to move over from NPK to carbon. So the very fact that we are still looking at a CN is also maybe a question mark over here. As per FCO, we are supposed to be less than 20, whereas most of the units would range anything going up to almost 40, right? Because simple reason being, if we are using waste, agri-waste, there is no protein in it, which basically means there is no nitrogen in it, right? So automatically, it is going to be a rich source of carbon rather than nitrogen. And then the pH also is on a marginally higher side as compared to what is there in the FCO. FCO is 6.5 to 8, whereas here it can go up to almost, let's say, 8.5 plus minus. That is to have a simple understanding. Once the FOM is coming out, it is the CO2 which is also escaping it, which is an acidic gas. So when the acidic gas is coming out, the alkalinity of the residual is going slightly higher. So this is, let's say, a more layman understanding of why the pH is marginally higher. So what we are talking about here is we need to adapt the FCO to the moisture up to 70% should be acceptable, CN ratio of up to 40, and pH could be taken up to 9. These submissions have already been made from the forum to the Central Fertilizer Committee. We are yet to hear on any decision on this, but this was held just about less than a month back. But we are positive that there is receptiveness to these proposals. So what we are talking about here is FOM from agri-based units has to come back to the farmer. That is the best way to deal with it, within the same catchment area where the feedstock came from. So we are talking about really closing the loop, closing the carbon cycle over here, instead of involving a lot of intermediaries instead of taking it away 100, 200 kilometers. That is just going to increase the cost of it. So ultimately, it should go back to where it came from. That is the best way to deal with it. We are already doing it to some extent. It's not fully functional yet. So we have implemented a kind of a hub and spoke model wherein from our plant we are on a daily basis, it goes out to clusters of villages where it gets stored. It doesn't get applied on the farms because it cannot be applied every day. It is a seasonal requirement. And from there, those, let's say, storage locations within the villages, the dispersal happens when there is an actual demand. So this is a two-step dispersal process which we have implemented. So there is no need for any intermediary to get involved from our point of view, because I think it will just end up increasing the cost. It is the same logistic supply chain which is used for implementing the inward feedstock is utilized for the outward FOM dispersal to the farms. The second topic is, I think that's already been addressed by Dr. Gupta. We really have to promote the FOM because of all the good things which have been talked about. We will not get into that. But I think the commercial part needs to be addressed. It's a cost of anything between 3 to 5 rupees on an as-is basis for the producer. And this needs to be compensated. So this is at the moment when we are disbursing it to the farmers, it is going at no cost. The farmer is willing to bear the cost of the transportation, but not the product cost as such, because rightfully so, to some extent, that it is a new product. The effectiveness is yet to be established, but the industry is still bearing that cost. So there has to be some kind of market development assistance which is needed in this initial stage, and that is what Mr. Jha spoke about in the previous session, that this has already been approved, but let's wait for what numbers we are talking about. And once there is this, there is a provision of MDA, then it can go at no cost. It could be dispersed as we are doing already at no cost to the farmers within a catchment area of, let's say, 20-30 kilometers. Another part which needs to be addressed over here is the legal handling part of it. We'll probably not go through the entire text. The only point which needs to be addressed over here is FOM comes under the Essential Commodities Act, which basically means any kind of deviation from the FCO straight away invites a criminal case. And that is critical over here. There are some units which have been adversely impacted because of that. The point to be addressed over here is that yes, there could be, now every CBG unit will have a different feedstock, will have a different biomass. The results of the FOM could also be of a varying character. So yes, there will be deviations. So we have to be mindful of the fact that yes, if there is some kind of non-compliance with regards to heavy metals or anything which is really harmful from a soil point of view, yes, that needs to be penalized. But if there are some minor deviations, that should not become an opportunity to harass the CBG producers. That is the part what we are making over here. Value addition part has already been talked about by Dr. Gupta. We are also working on products like PROM, composting. So these are enriched forms of FOM which can actually yield better value. But again, these are in R&D stage at the moment. So we will need some kind of hand holding for this initial period till the time these products, more enriched products, are established into the market and there is a demand coming from the farmer side. So to conclude, this is what we are talking about. Right now, there is no monetization policy which is existing for FOM. So it is still really a waste, not getting converted into wealth. So this is where we are talking about, one, we need to adapt the FCO, already talked about it. The FOM dispersal, at least from the agri-residue units, should be restricted to the feedstock collection area. That is the best way to deal with it without adding further costs to it. The commercial offtake, as I said, the cost factor is anything between 3 to 5 rupees per kg to the producer on an as-is basis. We would highly recommend to work closely with bodies, national level bodies like ICAR or IARI at a CBG industry level basis, and which will also be used for promotion and incentivizing the use of FOM in our farming practices. That'll be all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Ashish. Our second speaker in terms of fermented organic manure is Mr. Sanjeev Nagpal from Sampurna Agri Ventures, who will also talk about their experiences with agricultural waste in terms of this digestate.
Good evening, everybody. Actually, in terms of my background, I'm an engineer by qualification, but farmer by birth. I've born in villages, grown up, seen agriculture from the day Green Revolution was introduced. From 65, 67 onwards, I have observed the agriculture from a very rich farms to the status of agriculture today. And that is why I got into this CBG, or in fact, I am producing power because that time CBG policy was not there. And I'll talk about the status of agriculture and why we need this. In early 60s, when we introduced Green Revolution, we introduced chemical fertilizers, high yielding, and short duration crops. And our scientists did a commendable job making India surplus in food, and today we have problem of plenty in hand, but our farmers are debt ridden and under stress. That's a very sad situation. India has moved on from bullock carts to orbiter on Mars, and we are aiming to be an economy, a 5 trillion economy, but our agriculture is still working under the policies of 60s, as mentioned about FCO and other. We are still stuck to NPK, and that is the reason why our food that we are growing today lacks nutrition. Our soils have deteriorated. 50% of Indians are suffering from diseases related to malnutrition, not because of shortage of food, but there is no nutrition in the food. We have rampant increase of the deficiency of iron, deficiency of calcium, deficiency of the diabetes or anemic. So many diseases are only related to deficiency of nutrients, which is our food is supposed to be providing, and food supplements like B complex capsules, iron capsules, all those things, it's become a $140 billion industry today. So my vision is that we are talking about Make in India, but we should also include Grown in India mission. We need to improve our agriculture crops, and the kind of agriculture arable land that we have of 394.6 million acres, if only 10% we are able to export, will translate into an export of 124 lakh crores. India will be the #1 economy in the world. So we have an example of Netherlands with the area less than Punjab, have an export of $100 billion annually on agriculture produce. And where we are, our products are not acceptable in the international market. So this is one of the major reasons is that our organic carbon in our soils have depleted to less than 0.3%, and whereas average it should be around 4% for healthy soil and healthy food that we can grow. Our entire organic carbon from soil has been released in the air in the form of CO2 or methane, and even our soluble silica and the soluble nutrients have depleted in the soil. So that is a very difficult situation where we are, and that is leading to climate change, all the global warming, everything. And the main thing is our nutrient use efficiency. The NPK application today is reduced to efficiency is reduced to less than 20%. So every kg of NPK application in 66-67 was yielding 80.9 kg of grains. But today it has come down to 16 kg. We are actually the recommended chemical fertilizers is 5 times the actual requirement. Whereas farmers are using double of that. You can imagine where we are. If we are able to rebuild our soil health, the requirement of chemical fertilizer will come down to just 1/5 of what we are using today. And that has resulted in increase in cost of cultivation. According to the survey data, average farmer suicide per day in India is 3. It's a very alarming situation. So we have to take care of that. So at the same time, the changing lifestyle, less availability of cow dung in the rural areas, and the cows have been confined to gaushalas or the dairy farming. This has reduced availability of manure at the farmer's farm gate, and also there is an extensive use of antibiotics, drugs in our dairy farming today. 90% of which is going back into the soils through the cow dung, and a lot of fungus is going into the fields. That is why that antibiotic is finding its way into our food chain, particularly the vegetables. That is the reason why human body is losing immunity, and not only humans, even the plants. We talk about excessive use of pesticides, but nobody or mostly people are not aware that use of fungicides is 2 times the use of pesticides today. And that is and all fungicides are arsenic based, which is cancerous. So nobody is aware of that. And the reason is coming from the dairy farms. So this has to be processed in the biogas plants, because that is where the manure is sterilized and all the pathogens are killed. 20 days of retention time at 30 degree plus kills all the bacteria and the pathogens in the manure, and that is the safe manure that will go into the fields. At the same time, when we are talking of climate change, CO2 is one major reason, but the second most important greenhouse gas is methane. And that is released into the environment when we decompose our biomass and we don't treat the biomass properly. So that is very essential because methane is 20 times more harmful than CO2 and it is not reversible. CO2 you can still reverse by planting trees and all, but methane you can't. So that is another advantage of setting up CBG project, that we are going to tap the methane that is being released in the air. So there we come to FOM. So the solution to all these problems is promoting FOM. If we are able to promote fermented organic manure, we are saving the environment, we are improving the quality of food. As Dr. Gupta also mentioned about the mineralized elements. So there is a difference between organic element and the mineralized element. So in the fermenting process, the elements are pre-mineralized. When we apply to in the fields, they are readily available for the plant uptake. So they match the chemical fertilizer and the nutrient uptake is balanced. So otherwise, the normal compost, the release of micro and macronutrients is lags behind than the use of chemicals, and the plant grows faster on an imbalanced elements. So the food quality will improve. I have results from the food grown with this, tested at PAU, and the nutrition value was 50% higher in terms of iron, calcium, protein, vitamins. It was 50% higher than the normal crop. I have the reports with me. So this is another important factor that we need to use FOM. And finally, the employment generation. The today's small farmers need an alternate source of income also. And these CBG projects in rural areas, these are based on farmers produce, will create that required employment in urban rural areas where farmers will be able to get additional income as employment while managing their farms also. So that's a big advantage India will get out of it. So these are, FOM is not just one product, but it is solve number of problems, public health, employment generation, all these things are linked to it. So we have done extensive trials, testing. It has been tested at PAU. We got 20% higher yield when we are using FOM and chemical fertilizers both. And we have also tested this FOM at Solon ICR Center for Mushroom. During off season, we can train some farmers to adopt mushroom farming. So during that time, the same FOM can be used for mushroom farming first, and then the balance goes back into the as a manure, and it is even better enriched after using for mushroom. So all these trials have been done. They are excellent results. This is my residence. Only FOM is used as a manure, and it's highly effective even for gardening. So I've also set up a farmers training center where we skill farmers how to use FOM and do the farming and different vegetables and all. And for this, I'll request a tie-up from ICR will give much better results in terms of skilling farmers. And we can have a formal agreement on this, and regular training of farmers can be carried out there. So suggestion finally for the way forward is, one of the most important thing is public awareness, where for a generic promotion of FOM, because everybody must be having a lawn in their house, but we never realized what kind of manure we have ever used. We talk about flowers, we talk about grass, but we never know how much pollution we have created by using unfermented manure. So this public awareness is very important to create demand. And this will also we'll be able to generate interest towards FOM when we talk about the improvement of quality of food. So this will be a big support from the government, ICAR. We can collectively start a campaign for public awareness on this. And of course, farmer training and interaction with the farmers is very, very important. And then we collaborate in terms of evaluation, value addition, further research on a regular basis, so that, as we all know, when mobile phone was introduced, we had this big handset, and we would have not reached the smartphone stages if we had not introduced those mobile phones at that time. So today we are talking about quality improvement, all that, but we will not be able to reach the final goal till we actually need a beginning. So for which we need some support, and I hope things will improve. Thank you very much.
Fine, and our next speaker will talk about the press mud as a digestate source. I'll introduce Dr. Tushar Patil, the Assistant Vice President, Corporate Strategy, Bioenergy, Praj Industries.
Thanks, Kevin. Honorable panelists and dear colleagues from different industry, policymakers and investors, partners, good evening to all. Now coming to the major discussion, what we are observing from morning till time, that there are definitely certain challenges. But as a Praj Industries, say more than 4 decades of technology and engineering company, we have come out with certain solutions. Now for every investor there are 2 challenges. मैं पैसे लगा रहा हूँ, कितने में वापस आएगा? If FOM is the challenge, then FOM, what form it should be prepared and who is going to use it at last moment. So सीधी बात है कि if I am going to produce the FOM, who is going to procure that one? Farmers. So farmers को क्या चाहिए? If I am going to develop that technology or that product, then it is going to be sold. Otherwise, if I make as an industry certain product and I will ask farmers to purchase it, nobody is going to purchase that one. Neither in the case of biomass, neither in the case of FOM. So we have to be very clear that as an industry technology provider, we should build the product which is going to be sold in the market, which is going to be purchased. So some we also done, especially when Kevin asked me regarding the press mud. So we have built the plant of IPL, we built the plant of Lifinity, now we are building the plant of HPCL and going to be commissioned on biomass. So we have certain very clear basic principles we have to work as a technology or as a what we can say innovative engineering company. Digester, then solid liquid separation, your solid is coming out. Now here digester, when you are using press mud as a raw material, it is digested easily with the consortia. But when we are going with the biomass, it requires certain additional steps. So what it means, for example, moisture retention is there, so my fiber length is high, that's why my moisture retention is there. If I reduce the fiber length, if I reduce the particle size in stage 1, it will definitely going to address the challenge. Now manure drying, screening, packing. I'll just explain you in short what is the steps we have to follow basically to address the challenge of this press mud or biomass based manure to reduce the moisture percentage first. It is very clear that it required a standard operating process. It is a business line. It is not as a byproduct. It is a product which is generating main revenue. So we have to be very clear that as we are operating the plant, we have to operate the biomanure handling section in both the ends. So as a press mud, we know that when it is coming with the moisture, some lumps are formed, then what you have to do? Aerotilling. But what you are going to do with the aerotilling? How many number of operations, how much area we require, which are the decomposting culture we have to add, that need totally depend on the what solids you are getting after solid liquid separation. So you have to identify that culture, you have to put it. wait for a certain time to generate the heat. It's a biological process, nothing rocket science in this. These are the steps we have to follow very meticulously to generate a good quality biomanure, which is going to be accepted by the farmers. So aerotilling, addition of decomposting culture, covering it properly, then giving again aerotilling operations. So we have done the one specific study for the IPL, and here we got from 75%, at the time of bagging, the moisture came down to 40%. How it has been happened? Because we followed certain steps. We gone with certain technical inputs in that, and then we come to know, yes, this is possible if we follow the stringent norms as we follow with the production of the compressed biogas. So it is not like that this is solid coming out, so you have to treat it just like a waste and then go ahead. No, it is not going to happen. So technology selection, I will not say that is crucial, but the standard operating process for this entire projects, starting from biomass or raw material handling till the end of your biomanure packing, that is important. For example, biomass milling is the section where your particle size is important. When you are going with the press mud, its digestion is the important. When you are going with the solid liquid separation, how much moisture I can take it out. Now for rainy season, nobody is talking about rainy season. What I can do in rainy season? I have to cover it. There is no other option. Or I have to operate on the calendar of operation where I can preserve it, make it in a different form and then use it. See, any investors which are coming to Praj Industries and want to set up this project, we are explaining them the challenges, but we should also come out with the solutions, because everywhere there are certain challenges. So building a plant with the experience, say more than 40 years now, we are in this field, same challenges we found with the DDGS in the 1G ethanol. Drying quality of dry distilled grain, which used now as animal feed. So similar dryers and all those things will come, but as a biomanure, I am very much now confident that if we follow standard operating process with the proper inputs, with technical guidelines, then it is going to solve the problem of industry first. Then coming to what farmers' requirement is there. So what farmers' requirement is there? Farmers want, which is easily applicable in the field. I will not take sludge and put it into the farm and then spread it. No. As a farming, I am also doing farming. So I want granule. I want dry thing. So that way we have to see that how that further processing or what we can say valorization of the product can be happen. Now we have developed one product from biomass to biomanure, biomanure to biobitumen, and bitumen will be used in transport sector, and residue will be again crushed further, sieve further, put it a granules and apply it into the field. So this way we have to look this sector very specially as a business line, and I urge, means as a forum member, we are also forming a committee for the development of this entire sector in different way. So this is just a case study that 40 metric tons we are getting and how much area we require to apply it, where it has to apply, what are the soil conditions. You should not apply that, okay, sugar cane ke liye itna lag raha hai, so we should apply it on paddy also. No, we have to see the soil organic content. Its entire study has to be done by the investors before putting up a plant where he is going to apply it. These are some trials, just like ICAR has conducted. We also conducted some trials on different crops, and we found that yes, all the results, technical inputs are proven now. Now challenge what I have seen, or as an industry we have seen, that one is raw material sourcing and other is byproduct selling. So formation of these two things will be one link. Everybody is accepting that FPO is going to work, KVKs are going to work, but form of physical form with the quality of that particular product is the key. And there we have to work very strongly. Some demonstration we have done, some trials we have conducted, and now we are coming to say certain level that yes, now this is going to be happen. So that way every entrepreneur or either side of sale of the FOM, uptake of the FOM, he has to go with the backward integration. Now liquid. There is another challenge, what to do with the liquid manure. Enrichment of the liquid manure, yes, docs already explained how to enrich that one with the microbial cultures and all rock phosphate, all those things. But standards for the particular crops, how much this liquid is going to be applied, that has to be defined on the cluster. So this is the majority of the crop. This is how the liquid manure is going to be applied. See, in foreign countries, they are applying the sludge. They are not separating out the liquid and solid. They are just simply putting through tankers and they are pouring it into their fields. But in India, due to different agroclimatic conditions and different cropping patterns, we have to adopt, or we have to valorize our products ourselves and then sell it into the market. Finally, any product we require organic certification. So we have to go ahead with the organic certification, all that stuff, and then see that how product is not going to be sold out. Now IPL, I heard that say more than say 30 tons per day, Ashish ji, they are going to say they are selling right now with their bio manure brand. And there are certain challenges in startup. They don't know how to crush it, they don't know how to dry it. Then optimization of process are happening, but today they are selling. Similar way, Lifinity is another project of Pressmud, they are selling. Now HPCL is coming out with the Badayu plant that, of course, they are also, we are treating that as a one value chain has to be created. And this is, as a circular economy, we believe that if we take it from the farmer, from the confidence of raw material, we have to sell it back in the same confidence with valorization. Then only it is going to work out. So way forward, in my presentation, I think that FOM should be produced based on farmer's application method. It should be mandate. We should not give him the slurry, or we should not give him some certain product and ask him to apply. No. It should be come with certain form. Biological enrichment to increase NPK along with its organic matter. Because if I am going to replace my chemical fertilizer with certain category, he will ask, bhai mera kitna paisa bach raha hai? So that is a natural question. If he is going to get higher yield, if he is going to get higher organic content in soil, it can be seen in next 4 to 5 years, something we have to enrich in that one, which is going to benefit for him. Then KVK's FPO should get involved for extension and marketing. Exclusive extension team from the Department of Agriculture, I urge Dr. Saab that you should focus on this and ask all KVKs to promote this one on ground reality to the farmers. Coming to the liquid manure, it is very clear that application philosophy need to establish with the dosage. Then enrichment based on cropping pattern in catchment area, and storage need to design based on rainy season pattern of the location. There are very practical challenges what we observed, and we try to address them with different customers. And as a compressed biogas forum, we are transferring this entire database to the IFGE for developing this sector very strongly for end-to-end integration. And for any clarifications, any doubts, you can write it back to the IFGE, and we are there to support you very much. With this, I would like to conclude it. Thank you very much.
Well, I'd like to share with you some of our experiences with selling our fertilizer, which we brand as Carbon Lights. Someone's explained, we got into this business from a very different perspective. We started out in life as a carbon management advisory company in the UK, came to Bangalore and got into the biogas business because we believed then and believe now it is one of the best solutions to mitigate climate change. With food waste, you're stopping methane emissions from landfill. You're creating two products, both of which save carbon. The gas could displace fossil fuels, and if we can reduce the usage of farmers in India of chemical fertilizers and put more carbon back in the soil, we're saving carbon emissions again. So we're driven by that. But I want to really sort of, in my few remarks, talk about what's the problem that an organic manure is seeking to solve? And it's been mentioned already. Soil health in India is a real problem. It is a real problem in agricultural soils right across the world. In fact, I like to say there are two climate crises going on in the world. One we're all aware of, burning of fossil fuels releases CO2 and other greenhouse gases, which is warming the atmosphere. But we have an equal crisis happening beneath our very feet, and that's in our agricultural soils, where the overuse of chemical fertilizers, climatic conditions, particularly in India because you're between the tropics, and industrialized farming practices are leading to the kind of results that Sanjeev referred to earlier of nutrient deficient soils. But the contention is, even 70 years ago, Indian soils, because you're climatically challenged, you're in the tropics, you only had 1% soil carbon 70 years ago. A healthy soil should have 4 to 5% soil organic carbon. So you're challenged anyway, and 60 years since the Green Revolution of pouring oodles of chemical fertilizers and pesticides and moving away from multi-cropping to monocropping has resulted in a significant reduction in soil organic carbon. And the only real difference between dirt and a healthy soil is the amount of soil organic carbon you've got in the soil. So if we're not going to end up with dirt and grow nothing, we have to balance the amount of organic fertilizer we're putting back in the soil. But unfortunately, whilst the Green Revolution was a revolution and it did amazing things, it turned India from being having to import food to export food. It, just like fossil fuels created the world that we all now enjoy, it has now a demonstrably bad environmental impact, that process, because we've gone from multi-cropping to monocropping. We till the soil and we grow very few cover crops, all of which put soil carbon back in the soil. And we've seen there's insufficient addition of organic matter, which is leading to this. And then, of course, the indiscriminate use of chemical fertilizers. So how do we do that? Well, there is a movement taking place now in America and in Europe. It's beginning to come to India that we've got to change those farming practices. We've got to move away from these industrialized farming practices to more sustainable regenerative agriculture, which means moving back to more multi-cropping. It means growing cover crops. It means using far less chemical fertilizers and pesticides, and then increasing our organic input, which is where we come in with what we're able to do with biogas plants. So just to share you some of our experiences with carbon lights. Don't forget, we started developing a fertilizer back in 2015, when we had to look at what the existing FCO standards were, which were for either an organic manure or a bio-enriched organic manure. So we developed a way of making our fertilizer which could meet those standards. So in each of our biogas plants, we build a large concrete platform, and we bring into our plant garden waste, greens and browns, because we want to drive up the carbon from the browns and the nitrogen from the greens. And then we take our digestate slurry and we spray that digestate slurry on those windrow compost heaps, which are 6 feet high. We put temperature probes inside to ensure the temperature inside that heap is always north of 60 degrees. Therefore, we de-risk there being any pathogens in any of the fertilizer that we end up with. And we let that compost heap decompose over another 45 days. The digestate's been in the digester for 30. So at the end of that process, after we've sieved the product, we then add a consortia of biofertilizers before we bag the product. So the combination of a nutrient-rich digestate, windrow composting, and a consortia of biofertilizers gives us outstanding results when it's used by farmers in the field. So we brand that as carbon lights, and we give it a narrative around we're actually registered under FCO as a bio-enriched organic fertilizer, and that's the standard. The difference between this and fermented organic standard is largely to do with the viable account and the total amount of NPK, which has to be north of 3% for a bio-enriched organic fertilizer. In addition, we're certified under IMO as being suitable for use by farmers who want to claim full organic carbon status, because every ingredient as part of our process contains no chemicals whatsoever. So we produce two products, a solid product which we've been selling for a few years now, but with the latest standard, we are looking now to test how we sell our liquid organic fertilizer. So we've had a few years' experience of trying to sell solid fertilizers, and there are lots of challenges. I mean, as has been mentioned, the agricultural industries, farmers are under a lot of stress. But there are some real issues if you look at the agricultural and selling an organic fertilizer into today's market. First of all, there's a complete lack of a level playing field. So we're competing to a certain extent to get farmers to reduce the amount of chemical fertilizers and to buy an organic fertilizer. The issue at the moment is the price they're paying for chemical fertilizers is well below the production cost because the government subsidizes it. So a 45 bag of urea should cost an Indian farmer today 2,500 rupees. That's the cost of fertilizers today, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, exacerbated by rising natural gas prices. Most of urea is made from natural gas as both the feedstock and as the energy source. So chemical fertilizer prices are all-time high around the world, just like fossil fuels. But the consequence of that is the Indian government last year spent $25 billion reducing the price of 2,500 rupees a bag to 300 rupees a bag. And DAP, 100% of which is imported, went from, should be 2,500, that's now at 2,500, at 1,500. So the other impact of that is you're disturbing the nutrient balance. So I'll give you a small example. If you're a potato farmer, you should be using diammonium phosphate because you need the phosphorus to grow a healthy potato. But at 1,500 rupees a bag, what does the farmer do? He buys 2 bags of urea and forgoes the bag of DAP. So he's growing potatoes now without the phosphate you need for the quality food that we need to be growing. That's what this current subsidy policy, the unintended consequences of that, but it gives you a lack of a level playing field. There's also a lack of awareness amongst farmers about the need to put more organic fertilizer back in the soil. They're all challenged for yield. And as you've heard, we're having to throw ever more chemical fertilizers at the soil to get the same yield because our yields are flat to declining. Then we have the issue of we actually got a flawed go-to-market model. Under FCO regulations, I am legally required only to sell my fertilizer to a registered agricultural dealer. We've had 3 or 4 years experience with that and it's all been poor. We find agricultural dealers are not motivated to want to sell organic fertilizers because it actually does require some selling, there's some persuasion involved, and it's far easier to just handle the flow through of chemical fertilizers, all of which are heavily subsidized. But there's another aspect of this which was actually quoted by John Kennedy before he became president. Back in 1958, he addressed a group of farmers in Dakota, and he said, you know, the farmer is the only person in our economic system that buys all his inputs at retail prices and he sells his output at wholesale prices and he pays for the freight both ways. Now that is as true of Indian farmers today as it was of American farmers back in 1958 when he made those remarks. So when you look at the conventional go-to-market model for any agricultural input manufacturer, just imagine the price of my bag at the factory gate is 300 rupees a bag. I have to ship it to an agricultural dealer. A 50 kg bag of fertilizer is big and heavy. When you stick that on a truck, your logistics costs are anywhere from 14 to 20% now. Given the high price of diesel, you'll pay that contractor, a third party, to deliver it to the dealer. So by the time you get it to the dealer, it's already at 400 rupees. Now the dealer has to charge a retail margin. That's legitimate. But he also charges the price of credit, because in most cases, he's giving the farmer 3 to 6 months credit to buy the product. When you add his credit price and his retail margin, the farmer's paying anywhere from 600 rupees for that bag that only costs 300. It's doubled in price because of the nature of our model of taking that product to market. So what do we need? We need innovation to change that model, to get the price to the farmer much closer to the wholesale price than the retail price. That's what we're looking to do now by testing a model where we ship our product in large loads with using our CNG trucks with a shipping container which contains the product, and we use agri-entrepreneurs to sell the product directly to the farmer and make some commission in so doing. And we're testing that at the moment. So we think there could be major savings in last mile logistics costs for that, looking at an alternative source of income and rural employment. Plus, the other areas we need to build awareness and trust. We were very helpful, as you might have heard this morning, when we've done a project in CityPet, where the finance minister actually helped us launch our fertilizer to 1,500 farmers that we invited in to a Gobardhan they've given us in the actual Mandir in CityPet. That's just one example of where we need to have lots of meetings with farmers to build much more awareness of the need to use an organic fertilizer and to reduce the amount of chemical fertilizers that they're using. What we're also experimenting now that we've got a liquid is a slurry as a service model. We're again using our CNG trucks with tankers. We take that out to the farmer's field, spray it on the field so he saves labour costs in that. And that can be a very cost competitive way for him to ensure he's putting more carbon back in the soil. So that saves on labour and packaging costs, it helps farmers improve their soil, and it gives you great circularity and great for the environment. So in conclusion, we think that whilst there are lots of challenges with organic manure, it provides the biggest opportunity because I think the problems with gas, and there are some problems, but they will find a solution. There is going to be a big demand for low carbon gases, so the gas issues will get resolved. But we're going to need some helpful policy interventions to make it easier to market and sell an organic fertilizer in the market if CBG is going to achieve the success we all want for it. Thank you very much. How long have we got? I'd now like to introduce Dr. Ardasha, who's going to give us a perspective from the chemical fertilizer industry in the context of organic fertilizers. Dr. Ardasha.
Good evening all. Dignitaries on the dais and off the dais. Time is very short. I'll be completing in a short time. The topic which has given is like balancing the use of chemical fertilizers with and organic manures, that is like enhancing the FOM to better meet farmer requirements. This is the topic. We in advance, we are really working with the farmers from last more than 50 years in the fertilizers, but the major companies which we produce the fertilizers are Paradeep Phosphates Limited, and you all know well that is Zuari Agro Chemicals that we are having in Goa, and it is under Paradeep Phosphates, and the one more in down south is again Mangalore Chemicals and Fertilizers Limited, and the new company is Zuari Farm Up. Mainly we sell all the specialty organic products, everything under Zuari Farm Up. This is our production capacity. 3 million tons we produce and market. And apart from that, even water solubles, organic products, micronutrients, agri-fluids, soil conditioners, everything we manufacture and we sell in pan-India. This is our factory locations, Goa, Mangalore and Paradeep, 3 major fertilizer manufacturing units, and 2 specialty, that is in Mangalore and Baramati we are having a 2 specialty producing units. And this is our product portfolio. Under fertilizers, it's a urea DAP complex and MOP we are selling. Under specialty, we are having a 5 categories, that is micronutrients, soil conditioner, agri-fluids, organic products. Again, from 2005, we are selling all these organic products. Though the central government has made a mandatory to all the fertilizer companies to sell the city compost, we were selling the organic products before that only. From 2005, almost now it's 18 years we are doing this. And water solubles, the new all grades we are manufacturing and we are doing. And pesticides, it's just a trading we are doing, and single superphosphate. This is the widespread pan-India, our presence are there. The 24 regional offices, all these through regional office under our marketing officers will be selling this. And coming to today's topic, the soil health, already Mr. Kevin and Dr. Gupta ji also they have mentioned about the soil health and all. it's like a living entity, and it indicates the soil as a living entity. We all know, because in the soil, the microflora and fauna is a very much important one. And the soil health is the ability of the soil, that is mainly to sustain the plant health and animal productivity and the soil biodiversity also. To maintain or enhance the water and air quality, this is very much required. And to support the human health, this is very much important, because when we feed the soil, then automatically when we grow the nutritious crop, that will be beneficial for the humans. Yeah. And the three major things like biological property, chemical properties and physical properties, all these will be taken care through the soil health. And we all know, you can see there in the bottom, balanced crop nutrition, it itself contributes 50 to 60% of yield in almost all the crops. The balanced crop nutrition is starting from the organic carbon also. Once the organic carbon is rich in the soil, then automatically the availability of the plant nutrients will be high, and the yield will be determined by this application. That's why we have to focus more on the balanced crop nutrition, and even that nutrition automatically it will take care of the pH imbalance, low organic carbon, nutrient deficiency and low nutrient use efficiency, and imbalanced fertilizer usage. As Mr. Kevin said, the urea is the cheapest product, and farmers are using more of urea because the highest subsidy has been given to the urea. Though the fertilizer cost for manufacturing is 2,500 rupees per bag, we'll be giving to farmers at 265 rupees per bag. That's the difference. That's why we have to guide them, and it should be with the balance application we have to see. And need of the organic products, yes, definitely, that is with the organic manure, whatever it may be, either compost, organic manure or FOM, everything we need to feed the soil mainly for the improvement of the soil organic carbon. And chemical fertilizers, especially to feed the plant, that is like a plant nutrients are very much required. All the 16 nutrients will be supplied through this, and that is mainly for the balance uptake as well as to get the targeted yield. And this is what soils with less organic carbon and soils with high organic matter, that is the major difference we can see. With high organic carbon, there will be a good structure, very good growth and development, everything, and finally it will be on the quality, and the produce will be with the higher productivity. This is what the products which we have seen. The city compost is also earlier insisted to sell through all the fertilizer companies, and as I told, we were in the beginning from 2005-06 only we started to produce and market the organic products. And even one more, this city compost in our brand, that is Bhumitra, we are also selling this. And for the balanced crop nutrition, both is very much required. Like city compost, what we target is to improve the soil organic carbon. As Mr. Ashish said, we have to focus this FOM as a soil organic carbon improvement than the nutrient, because though the nutrient content is less, but to improve the soil organic carbon, this FOM is very much required. And for any other nutrients, we are having many sources, but to improve the soil organic carbon, organic manures are very much required. And this is the list of FCO, already it is covered, even FOM liquid as well as the solid one, it is there. All these products we are selling, almost more than 14 organic products we are selling. And even if they made a mandate or voluntary also, we are ready to sell the FOM also. Whoever interested will be having the tie-ups in future, and pan-India will be selling, because we are having a wide network. More than 1 lakh dealers we are having in the pan-India. This is the last 5 years data you can see, and this year we are targeting almost 1 lakh metric tons of all the organic products. Even in that city compost also you can see from 14,000, now we are targeting some 26,000, the single product. And apart from that, many organic products also we are doing, and 1 lakh ton will be targeting for the current year. This is the conclusion, mainly to improve the nutrient use efficiency, and we have to follow this integrated nutrient management. Almost all the panelists have said we have to train the farmers mainly to create the awareness. That is how we can achieve. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
In the interest of time, and I'm afraid the one speaker that we've missed, someone is coming in to use this room. So the last speaker we won't have now, but we will have through the session when the minister's speaking. So we're now going to close this session. This is the end of the first day. I think drinks are going to be served from 7 o'clock, as Sanjeev has indicated. So I'm afraid we didn't have any chance for Q&A, but we'll have lots of time over drinks and dinner this evening. So thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance and your contribution. Thank you very much.